Hey guys, here for another edition of Freedom Friday. Come to you today to talk about really a pretty tragic issue that's been developing. You've probably seen on the news the riots, the protests in Baltimore uh, regarding the death of Freddie Gray, and I always try and find topics that are suitable to speak about when it comes to freedom and liberty and issues concerning all Americans. And this is one that is been pretty important to me over the last few years. And if you don't know the story of Freddie Gray, Freddie was arrested and detained by police and transported in a police van and sustained some injuries while in the police van and during the arrest, and later died of those injuries about a week later. The report has come out today from the medical examiner's office, and 6 of the officers involved in the arrest, just saw about a few hours ago, have been charged with manslaughter, second-degree murder, and a few other charges. Most people, if you're not living under a rock, you're probably seeing all of the news is about the rioters and how CVS is burning and Baltimore Orioles games got canceled, and there's a really a massive racial undertone to everything that's going on out there. Even I got brought into an argument on Facebook with a website called Vitamin Q. They posted a meme which was historically incorrect, and I called him out on it. And he ended up calling me a Klansman because I called him out on the meme. And so, when these issues happen, I think we see really some sad elements of society come out. I've seen some pretty racial. Pretty bad racial attacks on people. And the issue I want to speak to right now is not so much placing blame, but there's a quote. I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and there's a quote where, if you remember the big trees in Lord of the Rings, one of the hobbits asked the big tree, he says to Treebeard, he said, well, whose side are you on? And Treebeard responds with, I'm on nobody's side because nobody is on my side. And when we see issues like this, everyone is so quick to jump to, well, whose side are you on? Well, I'm on the police's side. He was arrested for a reason. He was arrested for a reason, and if you don't do anything wrong, you don't have anything to worry about when it comes to police. There's that side. And then there's the side of people defending the rioters and some of the protesters and saying, hey, I'm on their side. There is a systematic problem with African Americans being killed by law enforcement officers, and there's no question about it. And they're on that side, and they defend even some of the violent acts that are out there. My question is why do I have to be on a side? Number one, and maybe both sides are wrong, and maybe both sides are partially right. Julie Borowski wrote an awesome article on this today on not necessarily having to pick a side. And when we pick a side, all we do is we just advance that side's narrative, and all we really care about is being right. Maybe we shouldn't be burning CVS's and people's private property, and maybe we also shouldn't be killing people who are in custody for nonviolent crimes. Maybe those are both wrong. Amazing thing I found out today, which just makes this story so tragic, is Freddie Gray was charged with having a switchblade on him. And it came out today that he didn't have a switchblade on him. He just had a pocket knife on his waist, which under Maryland law in Baltimore, city law, not city law, but whatever it's actually called, ordinances, excuse me, that's not illegal. But what did they do? Here we have an African American who was targeted for carrying a switchblade when it wasn't actually a switchblade. It was just a pocket knife. I have plenty of friends that carry pocket knives all the time for work, for just random things that come up, used as a screwdriver, opening boxes, whatever. Here's a guy who was targeted. He was arrested. He was hogtied. He was thrown into the back of a police van without a seatbelt, without any medical attention, and suffered fatal injuries because of this. Now, if you are at all trying to defend that as okay, I really struggle to see where the logic is in that. Regarding taking race out of it for a second, I mean that is horrible. It's a terrible thing, and I got to tell you, if it was my family member, or someone from my neighborhood, I would probably be out on the streets too. I wouldn't be burning. I wouldn't be stealing beef jerky from a CVS, but I could tell you, I would be making sure that my voice was heard and that I was out there making some type of a positive impact on the situation, because that's just terrible. So, that's kind of the story that's going on here. So now 6 of these officers have been charged. I really think that if we're going to make progress, we have to stop taking sides in the issues and talk about, what are the actual solutions. People have been calling for body cams, on law enforcement officers for a little while now. I have been. A lot of people in the Liberty Movement have been. Hillary Clinton came out earlier this week and said that she supports that. Rand Paul's been pushing this for a while. Tim Scott has been pushing this, senator from South Carolina, and so, I think it's important that that's a start to be able to truly know what happens in these instances, and people can get the justice that they deserve. And when I say justice, I mean there are police officers that have been wrongly accused of crimes. They need to get the justice that they deserve. If someone dies and they were wrongfully harmed or wrongfully killed, they need to get the justice they deserve, which they'll never be able to get the justice they fully deserve, which is their life. Everyone in this country has, a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are just the basic, the basic human rights that actually everyone in the world should have a right to. And so, I really think that we have to, we got to step back from all of the, the racial, in flaring of these different, issues. And it's amazing to me how quickly people just defended the police. It's amazing to me how quickly people just defended the rioters. It's okay to say that, two things can be wrong, or that both people can be wrong on an issue. And I think that's what we have to do as people who aren't in the media, as people who aren't necessarily working for one side or the other, but as people and as citizens, we're the ones that have to take the responsibility to advance this conversation. What I see is happening is, the law enforcement agencies and government and media, they're the ones that are driving the conversation, and we're kind of like, on the sideline watching the whole, thing go down, where we need to be the ones that are actually driving the conversation around this, and they should be the ones that are actually reporting on it. So I find it absolutely tragic. I'm happy to see some type of action come down from the state attorney's office, and I hope that the rioters can find at least some peace in the fact that something is being done here. And I do not condone the destruction of personal and private property. I think that needs to stop immediately. And if you want to riot, go riot out in front of the Baltimore Police Department. Go at least get in front of the actual people that you're mad at. And I'm mad too. I'm frustrated too. But I'm going to make sure that my critiques and anything that I say against this incident are at least going to go against the people that should be held responsible for it. So love your comments. Gonna put some links underneath the video regarding some of the different things that I touched on there, and we'll see what comes of this in the next couple weeks. Thanks.